Radically accepting, all right, we're in this position, we got to figure it out. Radical acceptance, like the denial part, the why is this happening, that's where you'll get stuck.
Hello and welcome to the Wellness Dojo Podcast, where we bring real solutions to real health and wellness problems. Today, we're excited to welcome Jessica Janzen, philanthropist, entrepreneur, mother, author, you name it, she's done it. And we're here to talk about bringing the joy, how to live life more joyfully through radical acceptance and following life's crazy nudges. We're excited for this episode. Let's get into it. All right.
Giddy up.
Welcome to the Wellness Dojo Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Craig, here with my co-host, Dr. Riley Anderson. And we're really excited to welcome Jessica Janzen to the show. Jessica, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so pumped to be here. I just said I had my 4 cups of coffee and my green juice. I was like, this is going to be fun.
Yeah, we're always podcast caffeinated, so you'll fit right in here.
Yeah, I was specifically told to buckle up, which I did.
He literally just adjusted his belt.
Yeah.
So I like it.
Dr. Riley's very, he takes things to heart, right?
Yes, yeah. that's how I live, yeah.
Do you get pissed off, though, when people don't call you doctor?
Not at all.
Okay. You're not like...
No, I'm definitely not pretentious about the title at all.
But
some people are.
That said, I feel very weird anytime that if we're just hanging out and I'm like, hey, Riley. I always feel like super weird now. Even though we knew each other from a long time ago, I feel super weird now if I'm like not saying Dr. Riley.
Aw. Yeah, I mean, I like the ring of it, but I'm certainly not defensive of it.
Hey, Doc, what's up? Yeah.
So really excited to have you here. You have a very inspiring story. Like many aspects of your story is very inspiring. Can you first start off just, the few people that are listening that maybe don't know who you are, can you tell them a little bit about yourself and maybe even get into your story a little bit and just jump right into it?
Let's jump in. So my name is Jessica, and if you were to read my bio that is often read, it's like I'm a wife, I'm a mom of 3, a business owner, a speaker, an author, and a philanthropist. That's like the real short version of it. I've written a book. My husband and I started a charity foundation in 2017, and our life is wild and chaotic and beautiful. And my platform and my purpose is to encourage other people to bring the joy regardless of what they're facing. What kind of inspired that and where we jumped off of was our son, Lewiston. He was our second born. We wanted a big family. We wanted 4 kids. I wanted them close together, probably not as close together as we had them, because doctors were like, I had all this stomach stuff, endometriosis, celiac, didn't have a regular period. Sorry, guys, now you know that. Just nothing was flowing down there. So the doctors were like, hey, you probably won't be able to have kids. Like, we're going to start the process. And we looked at each other, got pregnant. I had my daughter, and then we looked at each other again and got pregnant. And when Lewiston was born, again, healthy pregnancy. I taught fitness the whole time. I felt great. And then at 2 months, he was colicky, took him in to see a chiro. The chiro was like, hey, I don't like his breathing. His skin is mottled. Take him in to emerge. We're in Winnipeg on vacation because that's where we vacation. And long story short, we were in the hospital for 6 days there, got discharged, no answers, came back to Calgary, redid a bunch of the testing, and the incredible team at Alberta Children's Hospital, the neurology team, and, they had this massive care team for Lewiston, ended up diagnosing him in August of 2016 with spinal muscular atrophy. And they were like, hey, your son has this rare genetic disease. I was like, cool. And they're like, just so you know, we don't think he'll make his first birthday. I was like, awesome. I really hope you have no idea what you're talking about, even though neurologists are probably some of the smartest doctors out there. And we did everything we could at the time. When they delivered that news, they said, we're really sorry, but there's no treatments. There's nothing we can do. So our role in his care will be to make him comfortable until his death, essentially. So it was a big blow. And right before that, my father-in-law passed away tragically in a car accident in Mexico. And my husband and I almost got a divorce. We're small business owners. Talk about a wild ride. There was a lot of turmoil, not just Lewiston, in our marriage and in our family dynamics. And so it was crazy. But I tell people the biggest blessing in my life was the death of my son. And it's taken me a lot of work to get there, but with therapy and coaching and all of that, my perspective just shifted because he truly woke me up. It's like sometimes you almost have to get to the bottom of the pit and hit rock bottom to then start living. And so I just made some major changes, and it's unfolded into this really beautiful, incredible life where we're really acting on purpose and showing up in a really cool way and paving a legacy for our son, Lewiston.
Wow. I love how you can just like blast through that when there's like so many missing details as well. I know that just from reading your book, Bring the Joy.
Thank you for reading it. Appreciate it. You can buy it on Amazon or at Chapters Indigo as well as Audible. Sorry, shameless plug, but Mom's got to sell some books.
Hey, you have to. And you should read the book for sure. And my wife read it first, and then she gave it to me, and she's like, you got to read this book. You're going to love it. And I did. And when I was talking to you, I said, there's parts of the book, I laughed, I cringed, got chills. I even teared up a little bit at certain points.
Teared up a little bit or a lot?
A lot of it.
A lot of it?
A lot of it.
Maybe
He's like, I maybe got a little frog in my throat.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah. It might have been early in the morning. It might have just been sleep in my eye. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But no, it's even just with everything that you've gone through, your ability to have that perspective of, no, we're going to make this work for us. We're going to turn this into something really special, really unique, is just such a powerful thing. So kudos to you for that.
Mm-hmm. You said that moment was the moment that really woke you up. Can I just ask maybe how, reflecting then on back previously, how you were unconscious and living life in a way that...
I think I sat in the shit more. And I think we often do. Like why me? Why is this happening? I've had the worst year. The last 2 years have been so terrible. We haven't been able to connect. I lost my job. It's so easy to sit in the shit. My next book, which will get published and come out, it's called The Hard Work of Joy. So I think people like default and be like, joy and happiness should be easy. And I should just skip to the park and it should be sunny out every day. Like, knock, 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 life's guarantees, death, taxes, and hard shit. It's coming. Yeah. It's coming for you. So I think this is the work that I've done around I'm really geeking out into neuroscience, how you rewire your brain. Because lots of people's brains aren't wired for joy. I just rewired my brain, and I've always been a happy, joyful person. But what I've seen in the shift in my life is that I don't spend as much time in the gunk and in the tough stuff. I'm like, you still have to process it. So I still get mad, sad, frustrated, angry, resentful, jealous, all of those emotions and feelings. We don't stop those. I think I've just been able to shift a whole lot quicker into, okay, this really sucks. Wow, I'm really sad. Oh man, this is tough. Holy, how are we going to figure this one out? Choose the choice letter word that you want to put in there. And then I'm like, okay, I don't want to stay there. So what's that shift and change? And one of the powerful questions that I ask myself is, so now what? We often sit in the why. And I think rather than being like, why is this happening to us? Because if you read my book, it tells you that I've worked with these children for 9 years with spinal muscular atrophy. Y'all haven't heard of it, SMA before you met me, probably. No one's heard of it. It's a rare genetic disease. I happen to have volunteered for the last 9 years, helped this family, worked for them, cared for their kids, brought them to my parents' farm, flew them places. And then randomly my own son gets the same genetic diagnosis. And no one in our families are carriers, so no one had known. And my parents aren't carriers, and neither are my husband's. And so we were just random gene mutations that happened to mutate in this one rare disease that I had known and helped and cared for this family. And so rather than being like, why did this happen? What did I do wrong in my life? Where did I go on the wrong path? The question became, so now what? And our so now what was, in Lewiston's life, we're going to bring the joy. And that's just my so now what now. Okay, there's some problems. What's the so now what? Well, how can we fix this? How can we change it? How can we make it better? And I think that's moving from a problem mindset to a possibility mindset. And that's a powerful place to be.
Yeah, it's like tomorrow for most of us, hopefully, is going to come. And so what am I going to do with it? We can't just sit, like you said, you can't sit in the shit and just say, why is this happening to me? My life is ending because of this problem at work or whatever the case might be. It's like, how do I make something of everything?
And the shift was, I remember when I cared for those kids in 2007 is when I met them. They were 4 and 6. They're now 21 and 19. They're in university, and their doctor said, you won't make it to high school. So amazing,
amazing.
cool. And now there's treatment. So the diagnosis and the landscape shifted. But what was really powerful for me was I think I started to really learn about gratitude after meeting them, because there's a lot that we take for granted. And Matthew McConaughey has this great thing. He's like, sometimes we're just starting. We say, I'm thankful for my legs. Like, have you heard that? You know, lots of people make reels on it on Instagram. But I remember getting into my car after the first time I had cared for the kids for a full day. I just wept. I owned a Mazda 3. I shut the door and I just sat there and bawled. I was like, I've never been thankful I could just walk to my car and open the door by myself and sit down. We take a lot of stuff for granted.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, you can wipe your own ass when you take a poop. Like, can you imagine your whole life waiting? Hey, can somebody, I just took I don't have the arm strength to physically wipe my own butt or pick your nose like you got something hanging there. I'm grateful. I got a boogie. I'll go dig for it. I got to wipe my butt. Okay, I'm not waiting on people. Like, start with the smallest things. I can go get a glass of water. I can, adjust myself in my chair without being like, can you move my leg over? Like, powerful place to start.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that so many people have to get to a place of almost rock bottom to start to realize that, right? To start to have those awarenesses of, yeah, like, I should be grateful for the fact that I can, that I have a car that I can drive, or that I have a leg that I can walk with, and those types of things. It's, yeah, you're right. I think a lot of people.
Unfortunately, it's the best teacher.
Ugh, right?
Yeah. Some of the things that you were talking about are, they're very, very powerful, and even ancient ideas. You see the concept, a lot of life is suffering, all the way from Eastern and Western religions. And then the way to transcendence over suffering, first, it seems to be, is acceptance. And that's at least what I've gathered from it. And so what really stood out for me hearing you talk there was that you acknowledge it and accept it before moving on. And I mean, that's some really deep ancient stuff that you've kind of tapped into, I think, anyways. That's what really...
I created a course, and the first pillar, these are like my 6 pillars for the foundation of a joyful life, is radical acceptance. Radically accept your circumstances. They've happened. You can't change it. It is what it is.
Yeah.
You start radically accepting stuff. Oh man, me and my husband have a 2-week, head-to-head doozy of a fight. Rather than like, why are we fighting? Why do we suck? You're like radically accepting. All right, we're in this position. We got to figure it out. Radical acceptance, like the denial part, the why is this happening? That's where you'll get stuck. And I think when you can radically accept the circumstances. So we radically accepted Lewiston's diagnosis quick. And then we're like, we're going to bring the joy, going to make the moments count. You got 179 days. And I would argue like they were some of the best days, filled with dance parties and like incredible laughter and joy. Even though we couldn't change the circumstance, we just changed our response to the circumstance.
Yeah, you probably lived more in 179 days than a lot of people live in their entire life, right? Like, yeah, and that's super cool. Like what you guys did, just from reading the book and knowing like the dance parties and the way that you just commanded that energy from the staff at the hospitals and that type of thing. It really is incredible. One thing that was interesting that kind of came up when we were talking was just the food and nutrition and I'm really curious about that. It's kind of a sharp detour here.
Detour.
But I'm super fascinated by that because I'm really interested in how important that was to you, like going through such like a difficult time. How important was it for you to stay healthy and to have nutritious foods? And even, I don't know how much you were exercising at that time or not, but like what impact did that have?
Daily habits changed everything for our family. And we couldn't change. Like I was a fitness instructor prior to this. I think I've always been fairly healthy and whatever. Ironically, as a female, I feel like my weight has yo-yoed. Like, holy crap, I just gained 65 pounds while being pregnant. And then I had a time in my life where the heaviest I was in my pregnancy. When I was pregnant with a child, I also got there just on my own with like trying to figure out my body and getting older and whatever, all of those things. And so, I've had this yo-yo, but what I know to be true was daily habits will shape how the rest of the day plays out. Like, it's just these small little things. So for us, it was like making the bed, just like sleeping there. I needed organized. Gretchen Rubin wrote a book, Outer Order, Inner Calm. which I really believe to be true. So just like making sure like there wasn't clothes and stuff strewn everywhere and things had their place. And our team, our care team, I can't say enough incredible things about Rotary Flames Hospice and their nursing staff and all of the aides that worked there and the full team. They were so dialed and detailed. Same on the unit. Like they knew that this was important to us to have a clean room, you know, well organized, that it felt as peaceful as possible. And another part of that was just eating healthy. And it's really easy to want to turn to candy and, you know, sweets and treats and easy things. And I will be the first to tell you, I am far from perfect.
Yeah.
I am a French fry, right? I'm a French fry connoisseur. Like French fries are my weakness. Let me try them and order them. Like that is my jam. I love homemade baking. Like who doesn't? But there was this thing of like, I knew I needed to show up as the best version of myself. So when people asked, hey, how can we support you? What do you need? I was just really clear. I'm like, I need a green juice. Like, let me know I cannot have another iceberg with shaved carrot salad with the Italian craft dressing. Like that was the healthy options there.
Yeah.
And I tell people, I'm like, what was crazy about our journey, we were super public about it. I think I maybe ate in the hospital cafeteria 4 or 5 times in an almost 4-month stay. Wild. And in the hospice, what's really beautiful, we're one of only 7 facilities in Canada that has a children's hospice. Like, it's not a place you want to be. But if you are there, they have a kitchen and a staff and a chef. And they had said, I was like, hey, could you make us a salad? And I'd love like a balsamic vinaigrette. And the guy was like, sorry, what? I was like, like balsamic vinaigrette, like some olive oil, a little balsamic, salt, pepper, maybe some fresh lemon, squeeze on there, whip that up. And he was like, what? Because they're just pouring it out of a jug.
Yeah.
And I get it. Like they're asking, they want to make people feel comfortable. Kids are dying. But we were in this influx where like, was Lewiston going to make it? Wasn't he going to make it? Was he going to make it? Wasn't he going to make it? And part of, for myself, I knew that I would show up better if I felt better. And I think that's true. I talk a lot about like, put on your power shoes. Sometimes it's 4-inch heels. Yesterday I rocked 4-inch heels. Today mama's feet are sore, I'm wearing flats. And this conversation, I'm like, put on the mascara, make your bed, put on clothes. If you stay in the comfy gray sweatsuit, if you don't shower, you don't have some daily habits, you're just kind of setting yourself up for failure, for feeling gross and not doing that. And what really changed was that we asked for the things we needed and people stepped up and they're so good. I had a lady, she would make these tin salads in lines of like shaved beets and like spiraled carrots. It was wild. And I felt like we could fight better because we were fueled properly.
Yeah, I think it's so important what you just said about you asked. Right? Like, how many people do you know that are just like, they refuse to ask for help or they refuse to, like, they don't want to be like a charity case or something like that?
I don't want to be an inconvenience. I'm going to be a burden.
Yeah.
I was like, hello, hey, me. If anyone is free, we need salads for Friday and Saturday because no one signed up for the meal train. And then people would just, random strangers would be like, I'll do a drive-by at Rotary Flames. Legit, we had people we didn't even know.
Yeah.
I remember when Lewiston first got diagnosed, I tell a story and I cannot remember her name and I wish I did. She had curly hair. She used to take my spin class, but she'd sit in the back so I didn't really recognize her. She made us one of the most outrageous, beautiful meals I've ever eaten in my entire life. And I was like, you barely know me. And it was like roasted chicken, roasted vegetables. She had little incredible fruit cups for my daughter and with whipping cream I'm like, what? People are good. You're not a burden. We're wired to help and serve people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're allowing them an opportunity to feel wonderful by being able to offer support as well. And I was making a talk on mental health, and then the concept of resiliency came up. And Harvard Business Review, for whatever reason, has come up with some amazing articles on that. And they've come up with 4 or 5 things from the populations they've studied, and this is what they have in common. And one is strategically asking for help is like one of their main pillars of building resiliency.
I didn't even go to Harvard, and I know that. Like 101, you don't need it, but you don't need a Harvard law degree to come up with that. But like when you see it in play, you'll just see the evidence of it come back. It's insane. Yeah,
my wife and I argue about this all the time because she hates taking help from people. Like she wants no handouts and all this stuff. I'm like, you're actually like almost insulting them when you say no. Like somebody says like, hey, can I grab you a coffee or something like that? I'm like, just if you want the coffee, like just say yes, please. Like, because they want to do something nice for you, you can allow them that privilege. Right?
I pulled up this quote from Adam Grant. I follow him. I love his like, thought leadership and how he thinks. But he came up with this and I was like, there it is. He says, people are happier to help than we expect. Data. We overestimate how inconvenienced they'll feel and we underestimate how valued they'll feel.
Yeah.
Asking isn't always a burden. It's often an opportunity to help others feel capable and useful. Seeking help is an expression of trust. I was like, seeking help is making sure you got joy in your life. Like, this is like 101. Like, the day after Lewiston died, and I don't tell this story to toot my own horn, I went to the hospital. A mom's son had just had a quarter of his brain removed. I was like, I got to bring you a care package. And people are like, where are you going? I was like, I got to go to the hospital. This mom needs help. And I know she needs vegetables. I know she needs a green juice. And I packed it up. And that was part of how I grieved, was I just wanted to do something good because I felt super shitty.
Yeah. Yeah. That the example that comes to mind is like, if you've ever had a boss that just wants to do everything themselves, right? You start to feel less valued as an employee. The same thing happens in your daily life. Like if you're trying to do everything, or like even in a marriage, right? If you're like, no, I'll do the dishes, no, and they're always doing everything and not giving you an opportunity to step in and help, well, that becomes a problem too, because now this one person doesn't feel valued in that marriage. Like they're like, I want to contribute.
You don't trust me to do the dishes
Exactly.
right, or the laundry. I'm like, no, honey, you don't do the laundry right because you don't fold the clothes the way I like. I love you, babe, but yeah, it's huge because then they're like, why don't you trust me to get the job done?
Yeah, exactly.
In bringing the joy, is the green juice a crucial component? It seems to be.
Like, I mean, here's the thing, y'all. I stack my days full. Everyone's like, you're so busy. I hate the word busy. No, I'm intentional. I knew I was going to be here. You know what I don't always make time for is like prepping my salad the night before, but I'm smart. I'm like, I want my veggies. I'm going to drink them.
Yeah.
So, for me, health optimization is everything, because I do believe it is the one precious gift that the moment you get a diagnosis, your world spins upside down, and it's in my control right now. So I'm going to do as much as I can while still enjoying the French fries and the chocolate cake when it comes. But I want to arm myself to be prepared for anything.
Yeah. I love that you embrace the chaos. Like that's something to me that really, really resonates. There's so many people, like you said, they're like, I'm so busy, I'm so stressed, I'm so this. But you say like, I'm intentional. I'm not busy, I'm intentional. How do you get to a place where you just love the chaos so much?
So this is like a definition, because people are like, well, your life doesn't have to be chaotic. It's peaceful. But if you've met me, I'm like a tornado. Like, you're like, watch out. You're coming into the vortex. Yeah. For me, like, this is our life. Life is guaranteed to have interruptions and to go not how we planned, right? Like, you set yourself up, and then all of a sudden, like, we're parents. Like, oh, dang, my kid's sick now. My whole day is blown up. That's the chaos. That's where it's going to happen. So I think to go in with blind eyes and say, oh, it's never going to go off course, or my schedule's never going to get thrown off, or I'm never going to have an interruption. All of a sudden you get a phone call, someone needs you, and you're like, yeah, I'll be right there. I'll drop it. And you had a plan, and it goes the other way. And so for me, when there's interruptions and someone knocks at your door in the middle of dinner time, I'm like, come on over. Yeah, we've got room for one more. Our family's rule is we're happy to share, and we always have room for one more. And I think that just kind of applied to my greater life of like, okay, maybe it wasn't part of the plan, but when it isn't going according to plan, it sometimes turns out even better. So I think when you're just open to, oh, hey, this wasn't what I thought it would be, but actually it's going to turn out better, like watch it unfold. And when you make that's where I feel like I have peace. If you were to look at my house, often in our fundraising season, my house is not peaceful. There is boxes and bags and people and strangers walking in. People have the code to my garage, and it's like, my husband's like, who are these people? I'm like, they're helping. They're volunteers. They're new this year. Just let them. And my husband's like, okay, I'm good. I'll be naked showering. Please don't go into a room, right? And it looks chaotic, but it's beautiful.
Yeah. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a big piece of that is just that you're doing what you choose to do. Like, it's something that you're like, this is what I want. This is what I enjoy doing. And so it makes the chaos so much more joyful, I guess. Right?
And there will be, like, for example, let's say you planned it out perfectly and then 2 people call and they're like, oh, I can't come. And you're like, oh, that throws off everything. Like, I've just learned to make peace. Okay, we'll figure it out. Because we talked about this, like, where your energy goes, right? So if my energy just goes into, like, Kevin Hart talks about this too. Like, I don't got time to be mad and angry at people. What a waste of energy. It is. Okay, if they can't show, things didn't go to plan. Let's figure out a new solution. And then your energy is focused not on the problem, but I'll go back to this, the possibility. That's where you find the peace, and that's where you're just embracing the chaos. And then you roll with it that much easier.
This sounds a lot like morning statements that I used to have to tell myself just so that I could accept the vicissitudes of the day. And I would tell myself...
The what-itudes of the day?
Just the constant change.
Say the word again.
Vicissitudes.
Vicissitude? Can you spell it?
It starts with VIS. There's a bunch of other S's and some C's in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna Google it. I'm sorry. I've never heard that word in my entire life. So vicissitudes of life.
Yeah.
And what's the context? Like, what's the meaning of it?
That there's just always things that are gonna happen that you can't predict. And just things are just going to occur that are beyond your control, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would do like a quick meditation. And then I would tell myself, today the unexpected may come to pass and the expected may not come to pass. All possibilities are welcomed by me. Plans B and C typically work just fine anyways. And then I'd end it.
And I would change fine to plans B, C, D, F, X, Y, Z will be amazing, right? Because that's life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I needed it. I needed to tell myself that like day in, day out, because I was trying to over control. And that just leads to a state of suffering in and of itself.
Like how often I've done this to myself, unnecessary suffering. Mm-hmm. Like this is where you're sitting in the shit where like you have the tools. And if you don't, ask for help and then go get the tools. But I think we sit in unnecessary suffering, and that is why we are lacking joy in today's world.
Yeah.
I think some people like to sit in it too. Like it's not like a popular thing. It's not a sexy thing to say, and it's not going to make people feel good to hear that, but I think that there's a lot of people that they're stuck there, but they're comfortable there. Like they're comfortable getting that, like, oh, this sucks, and then they have like their friends that are like, oh yeah, I'm so sorry, that sucks and stuff. It's like you gotta just like flip the switch, and it doesn't suck. This is great. I love that this problem came, because now I can get stronger and have a solution. Like, I don't know how necessarily people get there, but that's the difference, right? It's a huge difference between being successful and not being successful, I think.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you said it. We like to be comfortable. Like, even for me getting out of my bed in the morning, like, I'm a morning person, really joyful, like, I'm happy. But dang, my bed is so comfortable. Thank you, Sleep Country. They're one of my amazing partners, so I'm going to give them a shout out. But
another shameless plug.
Hey, I'm all about it. But, like, here's the thing. Like, I love being in my bed. It is so comfortable. I got the thick, duvet and my mattress. Like, that's comfortable. But could you imagine if I stayed there all day? Because it's comfortable? Mm-hmm. It's like, I get it. And it'll be there for me later. But this piece of like, I'm going to do the thing that's uncomfortable, which means I'm getting out of bed. It's now cold in the mornings and whatever. But that shifts into like, I'm changing the day. I just encourage people. It's like, yes, I get it. It's comfortable. It's easy. But like, do the 5 seconds of the hard work and then step into something different, because that is where change and those beautiful moments will come. Yeah. But you got to step into it.
And it is hard work. I think I think some people might look at somebody like yourself, who's very successful, very joyful, and all this type of thing, and they might go like, I wish I was like that, right? They go, I wish I had that in me. It's like, you do have that in you. It's a choice, right? And I know that's something in your book, Bring the Joy, as well. You end every chapter, there's like the nudge, the choice, and I'm blanking the joy. The joy, yeah. That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you speak to that a little bit on like the nudge and the choice in particular?
It's funny. My best friend hates the word nudges. She's like, it's like, how people don't like the word moist?
Yes. Yeah.
She's like, I hate to tell you this, but I hate the word nudges. I was like, I wrote a book and you bought 10 of those damn copies. Yeah. But, okay.
Couldn't have told me this before.
Yeah. Well, and I'm like, it's who I am. So I started recognizing all these nudges, promptings, you can call it whatever. For myself, I really do believe it's the voice of God. I'm a Christian. I love Jesus. I go to church. My 2 things are love Jesus, love other people, wherever they're at. That's how I want to show up in the world. Saved by grace. And I think that we get these whispers, these promptings on our heart. And what I started to see when I just asked some really great questions, I was like, holy shit. I was like, every time there's a nudge and then I act on the nudge, I'm like, that's where the joy lies. I was like, oh, and often the nudges are scary. And I talk about how I approached my husband. I confess my undying love to him. It's all these things. It was not comfortable being like, ask the hot guy in the office if he's okay. And I literally was like, oh, this is so uncomfortable. I like, we never talked. We were like, you know, your business colleagues. We had never gone for like an after work beer or even like really co-intermixed. It was like, this is happening at this store. You do this, I'll do this. Okay. So then when I knew something was wrong and I had this nudge, like just to be like, dude, you okay? He was like, no, I'm not. And I was like, oh my gosh, we've had a conversation other than, you know, what we were doing for business. And then it was like, oh man, ask him to church again. I was like, ugh, I don't want to be like the Bible thumper that's asking the hot guy to, like, this is so uncomfortable. Because you know what people's response will be. I ask a lot of people to church and a lot of people say no, and that's their decision. And then you'd like the fear of rejection. You're like, oh, it's so stupid. I shouldn't have done that. But I just followed through, and like I was nudged to help this family with 2 kids with SMA, and they were in a desperate situation. Their nanny had just left. I had quit my job, but they're like, when can you come over? I'm like, I don't know, whenever. They're like, can you come tomorrow? I was like, sure. So I was just encouraged. There's these little promptings on your heart. There's these ideas that you have. Some of them are wild and crazy. My next wild and crazy idea for the foundation, my husband's like, oh boy, like he's like buckling up. Like he's like, I can't even, but he's like, I know you're going to make it happen. So here we go. And I'm like, we got the nudge. I've been nudged a couple times. We got to do something on this. So what I would just encourage you is like, rather than suppressing it or saying, oh, that's a stupid idea, or we don't act on it because we don't know the how. You're like, oh man, I have this cool idea. We should do this thing. How are we going to make it happen? I've never done that before. Oh my gosh, what if it doesn't work out? So you play all those scenarios. What I know to be true is I just show up with the belief that it's possible. So if you show up with the belief it's possible, neuroscience here, all the things, your brain will start offering you all the solutions of how it's possible. And often it isn't in the A, B, or C. It's in the X, Y, Z after 19 attempts at something. And so I respond to the nudges because I know that that's where the joy is. And it's often very, very scary because you're not guaranteed the outcome. But in that, those have always been my greatest moments. And they're on my highlight reel of my life.
Are there nudges that you don't respond to?
All the time. And then I beat myself up. Like I'm like, go give this guy. Okay, I'll tell you the craziest one. And I chickened out. I did a half-ass ask out. I'm sitting in my favorite restaurant, 10 Foot Henry. Here in the city, they're an incredible restaurant.
Vegetarian, is it?
No,
oh, okay.
They've got some amazing meat dishes.
Oh, okay.
But their vegetable dishes are fantastic. Ordered the charred cabbage, the broccolini, and the tomatoes.
All right.
Okay. There's another shameless plug. They're amazing. I love them. So I'm sitting in that restaurant. Crazy things always happen to me in this restaurant. And I see this guy, and I'm like, he's probably in his late 50s, maybe early 60s. And I knew it. Just in my gut. I was like, that guy's not okay. He is not okay. I was like, something's up. And I was nudged to go over to him and just see him say, sir, I know you're not okay. I just want you to know I'm praying for you and that I see you. And he had 2 other guys sitting at the table, well-dressed, and I chickened out. So my cop-out was that I just wrote him a note. And then I asked, I know the team there, I said, Sean, can you just send this note to this gentleman, wait till I leave? And it just says, I see you, and I want you to know that it's going to be okay. And I don't think I signed my name on it. And to this day, I don't know where that happened. And if I would have gone to him in person, I don't know where that would have happened. But sometimes I think people just need to be seen, or like you're like, I should buy this person a coffee, or I should call my girlfriend, or I should call my mom or a friend. And I had a nudge to call a girlfriend last week, and I was like, you got to check in. And then I got busy, and my kids distracted me, and I didn't make the call, and I ran into my girlfriend. I was like, girl, you're on my heart last week. I'm sorry, I meant to call you. I didn't act on the nudge, and then I got distracted. I'm like, you doing okay? And she's like, no, I'm not. I was like, oh, that's why I was friggin' nudged. So you got to do the things, and it's scary because you don't know the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to look like an idiot in front of the 2 business guys. I'm like, who cares what they think of me? I might not ever see them again in my life. Like, why did I put so much value on, oh my gosh, they think I'm some wacko. So.
Yeah. I love it though. I know now I get those all the time.
We do. Now that you're thinking about it, you're like, oh my gosh. And some of them are small, like open up the door for the person. And then others are like, give away $1,000. And you're like, what? I don't have $1,000. Do it. It's crazy. It's wild. Like I go to my husband, I'm like, honey, I was nudged. And his response sometimes is like, oh shit. And then he's like, yeah, do the thing. I know you're nudged. It'll all work out.
That sounds exactly like me and my wife. She's like, she has the biggest heart in the world. And yeah, oftentimes she'd be like, so I did this thing. I'm like, oh. I'm like, how much money did you give them?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, you got to follow those nudges. Is it like, do you struggle with like missing a nudge? Do you live with a lot of regret with that? Or do you just move on and go like, well, more nudges will come and I'll act on those ones and, on to the next thing?
I think like I don't want to live with regret or failure. Like I think it's really easy to play those cards. So then my question that I'm working on and what I've shifted for myself is, oh man, how could I do that better? What could I have changed about that situation? Because I often spent more time beating myself up, which just makes me spiral into the darkness of despair. And so rather than be like, oh, you're an idiot, your idea is stupid, you failed, look at how dumb that was. Like your brain will offer you. We get 60,000 thoughts a day. Your brain offers you a lot of ideas, some amazing and some really stupid. And so I just choose not to hook on to the stuff that tells me like, you missed it, you're an idiot. And I'm going, oh man, how could I show up better? What did I learn from that? Okay, if this happens again, how will I play this out? And just being curious really helps shape and not stay, for me, in the depths of despair.
We both did martial arts growing up, and like I don't know if you feel this way from it as well, but for me it's like everything is a lesson in life now. Right? It's like everything that I did in martial arts, whether you got your ass kicked in a tournament or your instructor was disappointed that you didn't practice or something, but it's like there was a lesson in all of it, and even in the wins, right? Like we've talked about how our instructor, you'd win first place, you'd come off and he'd be like, I would have given you second. We're like, cool, there's a lesson in winning too.
Right? Yeah. And I'd also say make sure you take time to celebrate the important things, because it's important to do that. And also you're like, okay, maybe there was some errors. I just spoke at a conference, and honestly, I'd give myself a 4 out of 10 on it. I did terrible. And I could have sat in, you're an idiot, you should never speak again, you're selfish, you're stupid. And those were all thoughts coming at me. I was like, whoa, pump the brakes. Okay, what didn't you like? Where could you have improved? What do you need to change for next time? I know I'm called to be a speaker. I know that's part of my platform and my mission for creating like legacy. But it's like I either focus on the problem or I'm like, okay, what's possible? What's next time? How do I improve this? How do I fix it?
And sorry, I don't know if you're going to jump in there, but is that something that you feel like you've always had, or is that something that you've had to kind of develop a skill for?
Develop a skill for.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those secrets to life type of things. It comes up over and over again, even in addiction and recovery. Like the biggest difference between those that succeed and those who don't is they take small lapses as a learning opportunity, and those who tend to not figure it out let the guilt and shame take them over, and they spiral down, and that seems to be one of the biggest predictors in beating addiction and not beating it.
Yeah.
And then what I always tell them is, it's a learned skill, so don't worry that you can't do it right now.
Oh my gosh.
It takes practice, and if you give yourself opportunities to practice, then that's not a bad thing. And and then also about like looking back and if there's anything that your mind is trying to make you feel cringy about or whatever, the only logical thing to do in the present moment is to take the lesson and just move forward. That's like the only thing really to do. And if you practice that, it becomes less cringy and more just like, yeah, I know, brain, I won't do that again because I've learned my lesson. And then eventually kind of that negative about the past goes away.
Well, and I think we talk a lot, you're seeing this, buzz around is like toxic positivity. Everything's fine. It's going to be great. But like what people don't realize is like you can't just will it into the world. You have to like, this is acceptance, radical acceptance. Okay, yeah. I biffed it. I didn't do well, or I placed this or whatever. Okay, I'm going to radically accept that. And then I'm not going to stand beating myself up. That's where I think people can't shift because they don't know how to change the story for themselves. And so we just hook on to all the crap. And so it's like radical acceptance and then like turning the boat, turning the direction and saying, okay, we're going to do this differently. Here's all the things I learned and I'll apply. But our brains will default to beating ourselves up.
I think sometimes people maybe think that by trying to like shift the perspective that they're like ignoring things.
Right.
But it's like, you're not ignoring it. It happened. And now we're just like seeing like, okay, what do I do with this now? Like I can let this be an anchor now, or I can let this kind of be a stepping stone. Right. Yeah. with the nudges, I'm curious, is that something that has helped you overcome adversity? Because you've overcome a lot of adversity in a lot of different, in relationships, in, business, with everything in your life. Are the nudges something that helped you overcome adversity, or what would, if you were to give advice to somebody on overcoming just those struggles in life, those really hard struggles?
My advice to someone that is facing a lot of tough things is this piece around radical acceptance. It's huge, but show up as your authentic self and then start doing the things that you're too scared to do because you're afraid of failing. And like, that is how you grow resiliency, you grow adversity, is just by showing up and trying. They say fall 7, rise 8. That's all it is. That's all. Like, that's just what I've gotten really good at doing. Okay, yeah, messed up there. Okay, gotta fix that. Get up and go again. I grew up riding horses, and the saying is, if you fall off a horse, you have to get back on, because you otherwise will be afraid. And then, and so that psychology of like, I fell off. Okay, I'm gonna get back on, and like, I'm gonna like conquer this fear and make sure that I don't let it scar me for life and trauma and all that. I just say that's just the same thing. You're gonna fall 7, but you rise 8. And if you apply that I know in my life, it will not just be this smooth line of sailing. I know the guarantee is the hard stuff. I know I'm going to mess up. I know I'm not going to get it perfect. And so because I've wired myself that way, I'm just like, all right, what are the questions? What are we going to learn? How do we rise up from this? And I would say I have eyes on always what's possible and on the dream and the belief. And the magic part is I'm not looking at the end goal always. It's important to know where you're going. It's important to have your North Star or your bullseye, or to say, this is where I'm aiming. But what I've learned is it's not in like hitting the bullseye or accomplishing the goal. What I've learned is that there's joy in every step of it. So like, I'm far from where I want to be with all my big dreams and goals and all those things. But I'm like, what are we doing today? All right, we're doing podcasts. Let's do the thing. Okay, what else are we doing? Oh man, I got to pay some bills. I got to make sure there's money in the account. I've got to, make sure my kids do that. I'm going to find joy in that. Because I was like, I can go faster. I want to go faster. Just get me to the thing. If I get the thing, then everything's going to be great. But what I know is the greatness is right here. I met 2 incredible guys that want to do things that are changing the world and helping people live better. Like, it's, for me, it's like, oh man, this is a part of the journey. Let's have some joy in it. You do that, the joy is in every step of working on something. So giddy up.
Yeah.
Fantastic message.
I know, I love it. It's like the success is here. It's in this moment. We all are striving for so much in different areas of life. Enjoy where you are, and you'll eventually get to where you want to go.
Yeah, and I'm loving the process of it. You know what I mean? Like, as a parent, do you guys both have kids?
I just have kids. He doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things with parenting is like, you're often wishing for the next step. Oh man, this would be so much easier for my kids, And I think in life, you're like, oh my gosh, this would just be so much easier if I had an assistant. Oh man, this would just be so much easier if I had an office. Oh man, like, there's all those things. You can always be, if I had this, then that. And what I'm like, we're just in this phase of life. This is what we're doing. So I'm like, I've stopped wishing away the moments, and I'm just like, this is the phase we're in right now. Because I also know, as a mom, I have all these parents being like, oh my gosh, you are in the stage where you can literally pick up your kids and put them where you need to. I now have teenagers and they don't listen, and they're dealing with a whole different set of crises. So I'm just soaking in where I'm at right now. I'm not going to wish it away. And it's like, man, we didn't ski as a family for a couple of years because I'm like, all that we're doing is napping and wiping butts and packing snacks every 2 friggin' seconds. And rather being like, my life sucks and whatever, I'm like, I'm just going to sit in this and enjoy it. The time's going to come. The time will be there when I can load up my kids and we can ski. It'll get there. I mean, a silly example, but it's like, don't wish away for the next step. It's coming, but in this moment, just this is the season you're in, so embrace it.
Yeah. It sounds fluffy to say like, yeah, enjoy the moment. But you're so right, because that's probably the number one thing that having kids has taught me, is to not wish the days away. Mm-hmm. Because I did the exact same thing where you're going, oh, I just can't wait till they can talk and they can just tell me what's wrong. Mm-hmm. Right. And then they can talk and you're like, man, I wish they didn't talk. I wish we could go back.
Yeah.
That's good.
But everything in life.
Even when I was single, I was like, oh God, I just wish I had a husband. Oh man, if things would just be better if I had a partner. Yep. And I wish I would have just pressed into like, oh my gosh, I've got no responsibilities and I can go wherever, whenever. And you know what I mean? It's like, just be where your feet are planted. Be where your feet are planted.
Yeah. Yeah. We always want what we don't have.
Mm-hmm. In the last few minutes here, let's make sure we touch on the Love for Lewiston Foundation.
Heck yeah.
And the new book, did you say earlier too? So
well, I'm working on it. I still haven't got a
okay.
book deal. If anyone is
Okay.
a publishing house that wants to write me a fat advance and help me get my next book so I'm not slinging it out of my garage, please contact me at hello@jessicajanzen.ca.
boom.
No, I mean, here's all the cool things that we're doing. And I obviously would love to connect. If you are somebody that is struggling with your mental health or some darkness, please know that you're not alone. And I would just encourage you, raise your hand. Let go of the expectation of who comes around you, but just ask for help. You shouldn't suffer in silence and you shouldn't suffer alone. And I've been battling my own mental health since high school, knowing that it is something that I will navigate for the rest of my life. So don't sit in the darkness and in the corner. It takes courage. You have the courage. Just make the first step. The second thing is we do really epic work. My husband, myself, our board, our community. It's called Love For Lewiston. It started as a blog just to update people. Hey, Lewiston's doing great. Hey, Lewiston's dying. Hey, Lewiston is dead. And then we decided our response to his death was, this is our so now what? We can do some good with his life and impact others that will have a different outcome than he did. So we fund everything from wheelchairs and, commodes that are accessible to elevators to accessible vehicles. Physiotherapy is something we're super passionate about for these kiddos that were once told you'll never be able to walk. They're now walking. What? It's wild. It's beautiful. And so we raise money and we pour it back into the community across Canada for families living with spinal muscular atrophy. And I believe that the Alberta Children's Hospital here locally in Calgary is the plaza. We have world-class medical care, and I want it to stay that way. And I'm thankful that we have a hospice that can help families process death in a really beautiful way. So we pour money into the hospice. So make a donation if this nudged you or moved you or you feel a little tug on your heart. A $5 donation has impact because every dollar compounds and adds up. loveforlewiston.ca. You can find us there. We host some really cool events. I'm working on getting Justin Timberlake. I've been working at it for freaking 6.5 years. It still has not happened yet, but mark my words, it will. If it takes me another 10, I'm not giving up on this crazy big goal. This is me falling 7, still haven't heard back, still haven't made progress. So just stay tuned for details. And then if there's anything I can do to walk alongside people, I want to cheer you on. You can follow me on social media at the Jessica Janzen.
Yeah. Definitely go and check all of those links out. I know you're very active on social media as well, and very entertaining on social media as well. Yeah, so definitely go and connect with Jess. And yeah, thanks so much for being here. This was fun.
Thanks for giving me the space to share my message and story, and I had a blast. Thank you for buckling up. You're a hard read. I want to unpack this. I'm like, I need another 2 hours to figure you out.
Well,
Cool.
we'd love to have you back. So.
That'll be part 2 where I'm interviewing you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Done. Okay.
Perfect.
Stay tuned for details on the sequel.
Yeah. Jess interviews us.
Yeah, I love it.
I love it too. Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Is there any final words, or you got it all out?
I'm a speaker. I was like,
You
girl, I
can
can talk for days. I would just say also, if you feel nudged, go buy my book, Bring the Joy. Check it on Amazon or Audible. That support is what enables me to keep doing and impacting and creating a lasting legacy. So thank you.
And I'll add one quick thing onto the book is I know I imagine that you kind of get more connected with females, with women, but this book was entertaining for me too. Like,
I love it.
Yeah. So guys, like, just because there's a
crazy
woman on the
blonde chick cover. Yeah.
like, read the book. It's very entertaining. It's very inspiring. You inspire even me, looking at just what you're doing with your business and the foundation and everything. So that's awesome. So everybody go read the book.
Thank you. Have an amazing week. Go make it count. Bring the joy.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you guys for listening and watching, and we'll see you next time. For additional support or to work with one of us one-on-one, go to our website, www.wellnessdojo.ca. You can also find us on Instagram at Wellness Dojo YYC, or on all other social media platforms searching The Wellness Dojo. We'll see you in the next episode.